Welcome back, dear viewers. You're still watching Business Insider, talking about Egypt's national industrial strategy. That strategy that is to be implemented on several phases with the goal of advancing Egypt's industrial sector and optimizing the use of existing resources and harnessing both domestic and foreign private sector capabilities, creating jobs, especially for the youth, among other targets. With us is Dr. Mustafa Waili, the former general manager of the Egyptian Federation of Industries. Dr. Waili, how do you see the government's efforts in this regard? How do you see the national industrial strategy, the phases, the goals, the targets, the work?
Well, first of all, talking about the picture of the industry and the planning for the industry at large, this was all the time, across the time, actually, was a dream and a very dear goal for the Egyptians at large. The problem, of course, that we sometimes are faced by problems, you know, something has to do with what's going on in the world and the effects of some other, you know, uncontrollable issues which will affect actually the main target, which is actually developing the industry. But in general, if we fairly track the record, go on the record of the track of the development of industry, let's say for the last 30 or 40 years, we'll find it positive in a way. The only thing that according to the speed development in the world of the industry and the modernization of the industry and the extension of the variety of the demand for the products of industry and the industrial products at large, the challenge is getting more and more. So to cope with this, actually it needs hell of effort, a lot of resources, a serious and relentless efforts to cope with the demand. I'm talking actually to show how tremendous job it is and how tough job it is. But that's the real challenge. And let's put it in one single phrase, that without developed industry, we couldn't have seen the world, the modern world at large. So we are part of this world, and we badly need to cope with what should be done in this field, I mean the industry at large. In general, I am very optimistic, although sometimes a lot of people would say that's really tough, the whole situation and so on, but I am personally optimistic because relatively compared to the time, we might have been passing through worse situations, like, I mean, when it comes to the world and the effect on our society, and this is a fact, nobody can deny it. So it means that we have the power, we have the capacity and the will to surpass this and carry on with what we have. And what is fascinating now, that everything I notice out of my experience and a lot of people, that things, there is good effort, I mean tremendous effort, not only good, it's tremendous effort to put the whole subject, which is the industry and developing of the industry, in the form and in the way of thinking that it should be a scientific, practical and implementable framework. This is what I noticed actually. That's all the introduction for what I have seen lately or read concerning the strategy, the latest strategy. Because I am very optimistic. I want to be even more optimistic by time, and this can happen.
Okay. Dr. Waili, the President last week convened a high-level meeting to discuss the national industrial strategy, and the meeting focused on various components and phases of implementing that strategy, which is designed to advance, of course, the industry at large, via some of these tools. One of them is optimizing the use of the existing industrial resources. What can you tell us about that point specifically, optimizing the use of the existing industrial resources?
Well, fantastic. I think I would feel okay to say that it's, let's say, maximizing, in a sense, you know, because once you are talking about the resources, then maximizing the efficiency of transformation of these raw materials, of these resources into a final product, an end product. Which
with
is
an added value.
Yes, of course, that's my remark. Actually, my introduction in the beginning was based actually on what I sensed after I have seen and read about this strategy and how it is put in a very, very reasonable and practical way, and really deep thinking was behind this. And even it was manifested in the presence of the figures who are responsible to carry on this strategy. You will find these, of course, headed by the president. You will find all those who are directly involved in a successful, if they get together in a very concerted effort and in a concerted way of handling the problems and handling any unforeseen situation. If they get those figures, who represents, of course, the ministers, the ministries, which is directly involved for the success of the industry in any society, especially in consideration in a developing society like us. All they were there, and I wouldn't say all of them are new, but all of them actually, they have their records more or less in their respective positions or respective authorities and responsibilities. Starting actually with the Deputy Prime Minister, Lieutenant General
Kamel
al-Wazir, with his record now when he was handling, of course, the Ministry of Transport and the achievement in the Ministry of Transport, and his keenness and what he shows that in the short time that he will be so close to solving and so keen about solving the problems which is facing the industry right now. That's an important start. First, you have to make things are ready to have a big start, and I think it was mentioned that, and we will have, he's mentioned even the date, that during this 24, by 25, then okay, we'll be finished. I mean, the laying out the foundation for this strategy so that to cope with the strategy of 2030.
Right. Dr. Waili, during the meeting we talked about, headed by the President, with high-ranking officials concerned with the industry and the industrial sector in Egypt, one of the main points that were stressed upon is an evaluation of the issues facing the struggling factories, the currently struggling factories, and how to get them back on their feet again with perhaps innovative solutions. What can you tell us about that track? And you know, you're an expert in this field. How difficult or easy is it to get struggling factories back on their feet again? How much money will this take? How much time will this consume?
Yeah. Well, to be frank, that we are talking about a spectrum, because when you talk industry and, you know, defaulting, or let's say those who are passing tough time as operation, I mean industrial setup, having these problems of operation, then it has to do, first of all, with the sector it belongs to. That's very important, because maybe the problems are coming from the type or the nature of the sector itself. But in general, once it was working well, that's very important. That's the importance of reference to history of each establishment, of each setup in this industry, and how it was working. So the record will show that it was doing well until something uncontrollable out of their hand has affected their efficiency, their production.
Like what?
And, well, for example, if you look at the supply chain, sometimes the supply chain, because sometimes, you know, a big industry, but there is one element should be imported. But the rest, I mean, right now we have some industries where we have the localization percentage up to 70%, which is really good, and some even 80%. So imagine if the 20% are so essential, and for something out of our hand, then the supply chain is not there. Then you can imagine what will happen. And it is not temporary. It can take longer time, so it has longer effect, and so on. But anyway, let's hope that, and this is beyond our control, and this is affecting the whole world now, the supply chain. I mean, everybody knows about this, more or less, the importance of the supply chain. So I'm just giving you this as an example. But when it comes to the other element which has nothing to do with the basic material or the basic component to have a finished product to be locally manufactured, then this should be tackled and studied to be solved in the best and the
fastest?
The most fastest time. Again, you will have a lot of problem inside. That's another story. But in general, if we have the will, because if there is a problem related to for finance, for example, and that's why you can see there were the banks and Minister of Finance was there, you know. If, for example, you find something has to do with the Ministry of Local Development, I mean lands, if it has something to do with the utilities, everybody is there, then everybody will be entitled of these figures, I mean these bodies, which is responsible for solving the problem, is there. He is there, then he knows the strategy, he will set the strategy, then at least the statistics are there. And if you go to the industrial zones for any of our governors, even the old areas, for example, you will find the problems there, you will have it, you know it, then it's already there. I mean, and the history is there. Then immediately the problem can be solved once you have all the aggregates of its causes, the local causes. As much as you can solve of it, percentage-wise again. As much as you can do this, then you can raise the percentage of success, of revival of this struggle. You call it struggle?
Struggling factories, yes.
Struggling, yes.
Dr. Wali, an important element of the success of the industrial sector is the cooperation between the public and the private sector and harnessing their capabilities to the best possible way. How do you see this, the performance of the public sector, of the private sector, the cooperation between them, and are they indeed, you know, maximizing, working at a maximum efficiency, or do we still need to do a lot in this regard?
First of all, for the public sector, for the public and private sectors, they are around even in some other, you know, countries, you know, which are the free economy and market economy. If you have this, we have this in a way, and out of my knowledge and having, you know, in the industry at large and specific industry, which is the automotive industry, for example, there is no deep or severe contradiction between the public and private sector.
Okay.
Because if you look at it, you know, always you have to refer the correct statistics. That's the final between people, you know, especially when they are coming to solve problems or to tackle problems on the ground. Statistics is very important, and the correct and the right ones, that's essential. You will
transparency.
Find, yeah, of course, it's coming from transparency, for sure. It's the most important. We are a transparent society now. We must be. We are. Yeah, I mean, Nothing is hidden, you know. Everything is on the table now. Because even we say what are the problems of the private and even the public sectors. So we sit together. If there is any kind of contradiction between certain sector, always we have to think of the sector. That's very essential, by the way. The sectors are important. In a special sector, if there is public and private, then we have to settle if there is any problem, because sometimes there is no problem. They are complementing each other.
Right,
you know.
not competing against
complementing even in production, you know. Because there are small and medium enterprises for sure, and this you can say, this public, you know, this is small and medium enterprise, but they are manufacturing small parts and some parts which will go to the private sector and the public sector.
Right.
You know, things will get us to details, but to have it in a nutshell, that okay, let's see if there is any contradiction, let's settle them through mutual understanding and fair approach.
Understood. Dr. Waili, an important element of developing the industry is, of course, the training and upgrading of the skills of workers at large. What can you tell us about that important element?
You know, if you have things are settled and you have this element in process always, I mean the development and the training and the more specific training and more advanced training of special sector of industry, immediately you will find the effect, because that is proved all over the world, all over the industrial world. Since even the inception of the industry, the revolution, industrial revolution, the role of the skilled labor or the skilled engineer, and you name it, but those who are responsible about the manufacturing process or the industrial process or in an industrial setup in general, the more qualified, the more they are trained, the more you have, you know, at the end it will be efficiency, there will be the efficiency and productivity. Both will be to the best. And they are very important. The efficiency, that's a big word at large, efficiency on the workshop floor, efficiency in minimizing the waste, but also, in the meanwhile, you are increasing the productivity itself. So you are, at the end, you can reach a competitive price based on the best low cost you can afford, and then you can get the market. Simple as that.
You mentioned a huge challenge, which is coping with the modernization, coping with the advancement of technology in industries. How are we faring here in Egypt in this regard, and what's your advice in this specific issue? Coping with the latest, most advanced technological means in specific industries? Well,
generally, training will have its effect for the productivity, for the efficiency of either the labor or whoever in the manufacturing process, from design even to manufacturing. The only thing in this case is that the more you can have qualified workforce, to put it in a nutshell, I mean altogether, to have more qualified workforce in the latest technology, this will immediately, I mean, it will take time to have that, I mean, of course, to the time of training and time get familiarization with the latest technology referred to this sector. And I can give you one example. Let's say the numerically controlled machine or systems. The advances of this sector has actually brought unbelievable and unimaginable results to manufacture and produce how important and how specific and how accurate and miniature products. In itself is badly needed such products, because the availability of such high-tech products sometimes saves you a lot of money in importing the same part. So if you can manage to have the calibers, because you can get the machine, but to have the calibers which run the machines and which will deal with the machines, because not only dealing with the machine, there will be what you call software behind this. So you have the people of IT who understands engineering, who understand manufacturing process, and you can imagine. By the way, there are some success stories, you know. I am
Tell
very
us
happy.
about
Yes, I heard it. I didn't see it, but I believe it. Well, during digging the tunnels of the Suez Canal, the latest tunnels, you know, the number of these great projects of having the tunnels under the Suez Canal. In the agreement with the companies...
You're talking about the new Suez Canal?
Of course, yes, of course. No, I mean the Suez Canal. The tunnels under the Suez Canal, there are 4 or 5 tunnels now, you know. It was, this is actually always, it's a big business, but also the latest technology is there, especially the machines, you know, if you look at the machines used there. So part of the agreement with the company which was supplying the expertise and the machines was to train the Egyptian workforce, I mean engineers and workers, you know, operators, to train them and have them to be trained there in the country and similar situation, so that they come ready and they can themselves later on. We can spare the need for the experts, we just even the machine later on, we can build the machine, but at least we will not be in need to the expertise. We will have our own experts. So that's show you how important.
Yes.
And it will save us a lot, because, you know, imagine how much you can pay, for example, for an expert to come to operate such, or a crew to operate such drilling machines, these magnificent drilling machines. We have now Egyptians, and you know what? They worked in projects in Europe in such. I heard the story, I read it, and I was very fascinated, and it's true.
Now, supporting SMEs, giving incentives to young entrepreneurs is key also in this strategy to upgrade the national industrial map here in Egypt.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that point?
I will refer to how many discussions me and you in this program and before
had about SMEs.
Yes. Still will be very important, because this is a subsidiary, but very important subsidiary, should be taken within the frame of the overall industrial strategy or industrial development goals which we need. The success of small and medium enterprises, especially based on the successful stories on the ground now, and it can be surveyed, it can be proved, and those even who couldn't make it to the end, you know, I mean, some small have been, you know, going also through these problems which we are talking about. If we solve them, this will be the easiest job we can do, because we are talking about small enterprise, but at the end, look how many workforce will be working there. See how many families will be benefited by such workforce. That's exactly what I'm looking for. To put it in, you know, in such simply.
Yeah.
It's an essential, even the scale. It's a scale. It's not that the big of the but it should be included in the strategy. And it is there. I read it. I read about that. There are 7 axes in this. Yes.
Okay. Dr. Wali, recently the National Initiative for Development of Egyptian Industry, IBDA, or START, announced the launch of the Nile Direct Industrial Investment Fund. And this is the first such specialized fund with the aim of reducing imports and increasing exports, and of course, again, creating jobs for the youth. Talk to us about
First of
that,
all, I'm happy to hear the Nile. First time I hear about this initiative. But remember, initiative, IBDA begin, you know, we discussed it, you know, and I have a great hope. And it will be integrated, by the way. It will be the spearhead in acquiring the latest technology and the latest know-how. And maybe also they will help the people or this initiative in training, also in the advanced training of the Egyptian workforce.
Okay.
I'm very happy to hear this. Simple as that. It's in the same course.
Good. Now, potentials, challenges, potentials versus challenges. A huge potential, of course, here in Egypt, and also a lot of challenges.
Yes.
Make the equation for us, please.
It's very famous. Sometimes people would say to make things easier, it's really enough is enough. But it's true. It works, you know. That as far as you have challenges, then you can find some potential.
Solutions, yes.
And potential or solution, you know. So challenges, actually the challenge sometimes will show the real force and the real story of those who are facing this challenge. When it faces the human being, or it faces, you know, societies, face industries.
Because the challenges are not just external. I mean, yes, of course, the region is boiling all around us. There is tension, wars. There is a global economic I don't know, a slowdown, crisis after one after another. But there are also internal challenges. So I want to talk about the internal challenges.
You know, if we get into the internal challenges, of course, it's discussed now, you know. One of them actually is the lack of the will sometimes for those who can help and do not help. Lack of the efficiency when it comes to certain small things which can be done in no time, and then it takes a long time. I'm talking now about the main things without getting into details. I'm talking now about, for example, the operations, because if any of these hassles which can affect the production, the capacity, or the programs of a setup, industrial setup in the first place, and let's be more specific, small and medium enterprise setup, this is really too bad. This what we should tackle it. I hope we always talk about it. Look, it's not new. But I hope enough is enough, and with this kind of strategy, a lot of things will be handled. I am not referring, I mean, it's written, it's there, it's announced that His Excellency, the Deputy Minister for Industrial Development, look at his title, Industrial Development at Large, of course, and the Minister of Industry and Transport, Mr. Wazir, Lieutenant General Wazir. He says that he himself will follow up all the problems as much as he can, and he might go after to the places where there is problems, and he will be solving it as much as he can. Then he will set the example how it should be done, setting it by himself, and of course his crew, and then it will be a trend. I hope so.
And the potential is always there. I mean, we don't need to be reminded of our potential. I mean, our potential is huge. It always has been. It's just a question of, you know, exploiting the potential.
Put it simple as that. Yes, Egypt can. The Egyptian can.
Absolutely, for sure. Thank you very much. Dr. Mustafa Waili, Engineer Waili, is the former head of, former general manager of the Federation of Egyptian Industries. It's always a pleasure to have you with us.
Same pleasure to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, dear viewers, for watching Business Insider. This is Mohammed Abdelrahim, and this is good night.